We're told that Russia is evil. Trump is a madman. North Korean leader is a madman. China is bad. They're all bad. It's propaganda. It's pure propaganda. I'm so tired of being lied to by the media. You know, the same people who told us that there was no internet bubble. Remember when Ben Bernanke and the entire government was telling us there was no housing bubble, and Greenspan said there was no housing bubble and house prices could never fall, while they almost caused the collapse of the entire financial system in 2008, and we had to bail out AIG and we had to bail out the banks, and mortgages to this day are backstopped by the government. The private mortgage market has dried up. We're in a heap of trouble, you guys, in this country. But let's look at some of the lies they're telling us about Russia. First of all, instead of saying Russia, which is a country that has elections, it's a sovereign nation, they use words like Putin, the evil guy, the KGB guy, the dark KGB guy who sends people to the gulag. What the hell is a gulag? And do we know that exists? And yes, he worked for the KGB. He was a lawyer. The same way that George Bush worked for the CIA. And we have people in the CIA that go into government. I mean, Larry Johnson, that I listen to regularly, that I love listening to, he worked for the CIA. He was a CIA analyst. You know, the KGB, the CIA, you know, I mean, every country has its own intelligence network. They painted us so nefarious. The other thing they tell us, Russia wants to take over Europe. Let's look at that. Why would they want Europe? Russia is one of the only countries in the world that has all the natural resources it needs for its survival. It has energy, it has land, it has water, rare earth minerals, and Russia is so big, it spans 11 time zones. 11 time zones. Why would they want Europe? Europe is a decaying, deindustrialized, aging population that's huge in debt. Why would Russia want Europe? It makes no sense. And there are no indications they want Europe. They haven't been building up a military to get Europe. They only started building up their military to defend themselves in Ukraine because the CIA has been in Ukraine and all the little countries around Russia, starting skirmishes, overthrowing the government, all with the aim of defeating Russia to get Russia's resources. The real bully is the US and now Europe, because Europe has been taken over by the same global elites who are demanding that we run a war for everything and plunder everyone. Russia has only invaded countries that started a skirmish with it, that the CIA instigated. I don't see Russia having bases all around the world. The US has 800 bases all around the world, surrounding Russia, surrounding China, surrounding Iran. How would we feel if India or China or North Korea had military bases in Canada, Mexico, Hawaii, Honolulu, Alaska, all around us, in Cuba? How would we feel? We wouldn't stand for it for 1 second. But we're told we're the good guys. But are we? Remember all the lies they told us? Remember Russiagate? I believed the whole thing. That turned out to be a lie. Remember Iraq, weapons of mass destruction? That was all a lie. Do you remember the COVID thing, where you're told if you don't get this thing that you're going to die, you're going to kill your grandma? That was all a lie. And there are more. We still don't know who killed Kennedy, and they're still refusing to release the Epstein files because they're protecting powerful men who rape children. That's who they're protecting. Because if it was some loser down the street who did, the everyday Joe guy who hired a street hooker or went for a massage with a happy ending, he's going to get arrested. But the guy, because he paid for sex. But if you're a powerful person who pays for sex with a trafficked woman or a teenager or a little boy, you're going to be protected. Yes, that's right. And you trust these people to tell you what's really going on? They're lying. They lie all the time. And I used to think that the media was independent because that's what the Constitution calls for, independence. We lost our independence a long fucking time ago. The same media that's now co-opted by the government is like the lobbyists. It's Big Pharma, it's Wall Street. They're all co-opted by the government for whatever they want. The only independent media is on YouTube. And this is why I like YouTube and social media, because you can actually get alternative news. So those people still listening to CNN and MSNBC and Fox News are getting hogwash propaganda. We're fortunate that we still have free speech in this country thanks to YouTube and Twitter. So you have to be careful about all of the lies that we're told. Another thing, I think that there are some people saying that Europe is ripe for revolution because Europe has been so carved out by these global elites. Let's get back to Russia. Let me get back to Russia. Russia actually took down the Berlin Wall. They relinquished territory because I don't know why they did it. I don't know if they were just broke or if they were trying to get along. But after they took down the Berlin Wall in the early 90s, they tried to make peace with the West. Now we can be friends, okay? But the West should have gotten rid of NATO because the point of NATO was to protect against communist Russia. When communist Russia disappeared, NATO should have disappeared, but no, because the warmongers, they wanted war and they kept expanding and expanding, and Russia kept saying, we want to be part of you. Let's unite. Let's have a combined European. Let's join forces. Let's trade. No, 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 we need an enemy. But what I didn't realize, the reason that Germany, and I'm I'm an EU citizen in addition to a US citizen. I'm born in Germany. Meine Deutsch ist meine erste Sprache. Ich habe Englisch gelernt, als ich 9 Jahre alt war. Also, Russia actually had a pipeline built in cooperation with Europe and Germany called the Nord Stream pipeline, which brought Russian gas to Germany, and this gas was delivered efficiently and it was cheap. And that's why Germany was this export powerhouse. I didn't know, because Germany, it was the leading economy in Europe. They had not only good engineers and not a lot of debt, but they also had that cheap Russian gas. Well, when the US decided, the US and Europe, some global leaders in Europe, the global elite, the ones who are working, they're trying to destroy us with their immigration and men can be women and their culture wars. They're trying to destroy us from within and weaken us, and just so they can get more power. That's what the whole COVID thing was, a whole propagation mind control experiment. I had someone recently tell me, I forgot what country in Europe this was, that his friend's sister went outside to smoke a cigarette during COVID, and they arrested her for being outside. You're not supposed to be out. I mean, it was a major control thing. The Nord Stream pipeline, they decided they were going to blow it up to hurt Russia. And all Russia did is like, okay, well, you blew up this pipeline that we built. I guess we'll sell our oil to India. And now the Germans have to buy the same energy from India at a markup. It's the Russian gas. They're buying it from India, so they're still helping Russia, but they're having to pay a lot more. And since then, Germany's industry has crumbled and it's going to crap. Germany has deindustrialized. France is on the verge of asking for an IMF bailout, and so is the UK. They are arresting people just for things that they're tweeting. Like, this has gone bonkers nuts, and there are analysts who expect a revolution. There's just a powder keg waiting to happen, and they think the UK and France is first. They're running their economies into the ground. They have nothing. They have an aging population, a huge social safety net that they cannot afford. They're trying to start a war with Russia. They don't make anything. They don't have any resources. They have debt, an aging population. They're deindustrialized. They have nothing. Like, why would Russia want that? Russia is busy building alliances, mutually beneficial alliances with China, India, Iran, North Korea, African nations, other Asian nations. You have to start following BRICS and the SCO and all the meetings they're having. Like right now, this week, there's a 1 week celebration. I think that was in China and Russia, where all of these leaders are getting together, enjoying themselves. They're actually laughing together, making deals, trade, cooperation, building networks and trade routes. And when they invest in Africa, it's as a partnership with these African nations as sovereign nations, whereas the US goes into Africa with their IMF bullshit, where they extract resources from the country, raise the taxes, and subjugate the people and do all these sanctions. The US is an empire in decline, and I'm hoping the Constitution can save us. We are an empire in decline. We don't make anything except war and bullshit financial products. That's all we make. The rest of our industry, if you still have a job, it's in decline. It's all in decline. I happen to live in San Diego in a nice neighborhood. It looks very prosperous, beautiful weather, people have nice cars, they're still going out. So I'm in my own little bubble, and some of you may be in your own little bubble, but drive around the country. The last 20 years driving around the country, you will see hollowed out cities with old buildings and crappy roads, and it is depressing. Because if you live in little Timbuktu, Iowa, or Mississippi, or Oklahoma, or West Virginia, you can't find a job. And everything around you is crumbling and decaying, like in Detroit and Pennsylvania, and and even all of our downtowns are filled by homeless people shitting on the street. And no one is stopping it. This is serious, you guys. And the same people who are letting all this decline go on and using all of our money to start wars and coups in other countries, they don't give a shit about you. They're not coming to save you. Look what happened after every hurricane. They're not coming to save you. You get nothing. Okay? They're all in it for themselves, and they're telling you that Russia is bad. After all of this, I've woken up, and now I think North Korea must be really good, because everyone that we say is good is really bad, and everyone that we say is bad is actually good. It's all propaganda. I really suggest that people start listening to alternative news, independent media. Who do I follow? I like Nico House, Garland Nixon, Jamarl Thomas, Sabby Sabs, Dialogue Works, Neutrality Studies, Judge Napolitano. I think Glenn Greenberg is good. Kim Iverson, Breaking Points, and Countercurrents, 21st Century Wire with Patrick Henningsen. And I donate money to these channels. I'll throw out like 25 or 50 bucks or something to support independent journalism, because these are all people like Garland Nixon. He used to be on, he's been in front of the UN Security Council. He used to be a police officer. He used to work. I don't know everything he did, but I used to see him on MSNBC. Crystal Ball from Breaking Point, she used to be on a major network. Kim Iverson was on The Hill, I believe. These people were all, they left the mainstream media because they were tired of being squashed and told they had to repeat propaganda talking points. They want to speak the truth. And you can tell if someone's speaking the truth because they're speaking more calmly, they're not arguing. Oh, Dave Smith, the comedian Dave Smith. I think Jimmy Dore, Redacted. I mean, there's so many, and those are probably not even all. There are probably even more that are really good to find out what's actually going on. And I like to listen to these different military analysts, not just like the propaganda, because I'll tell you what, Judge Napolitano used to be a frequent guest on the mainstream media, but ever since he started speaking the truth and questioning the wars and saying what's really going on, they don't want to hear from him anymore. If you're not for Israel, committing genocide, you cannot be on any of the mainstream networks. You cannot. And today they're talking about the Epstein files, except Fox News. Because some people see the president as some godlike cult leader. The president is just another wheel in the cog. Okay? The US empire does wars no matter who's in power. They cover up child pedophilia because rich people are allowed to be satanic abusers of women and children, and they're protected. We're not the good guys. The Constitution is the good guy. The Constitution is the good guy. And under the Constitution, we are supposed to have free speech and an independent press. And our press is not independent. Just like our Congress people are not independent. They're bought and paid for with lobbyist money. And the free press is also an arm of the government. Look at how many of us were silenced during COVID when we started questioning whether there should be a lockdown or whether we should take these emergency use authorization BS things. We were silenced because the government told the media to silence us. The government is paying the media. The advertisers are paying the media. They're not independent. They're feeding us BS. And the biggest BS is that Russia is our enemy and that Russia wants to take over Europe. Europe is a dilapidated, deindustrialized, highly indebted, aging population. It's good if you're a tourist, but if I'm a colonialist that wants to expand my empire, let's say Russia really does want to expand their empire because they're so evil, I would go after Africa. That's where the gold mines are, that's where the resources are, and I would exploit my own resources I have in Russia in my 11 time zones. Russia is the #1 exporter of, that's where we get all of our fertilizer. Why are we sanctioning Russia? And Europe is stupid because they destroyed the Nord Stream pipeline. We think the British did it, MI6, and now they have to pay more for that same oil because it comes through India, or they have to buy it from the US. They destroyed their own economy. And guess what? There's a German populist party called the AfD, and 6 of their candidates mysteriously died in the last weeks. Mysteriously, just died. Coincidence? Because the head of Germany used to be the head of BlackRock. And France is linked to the Rothschilds. There's a lot of, and these people come in power. We like to think, I used to think of these people in power as like these benevolent fathers, But they're not. They're more like the evil Satan. Because once people gain power, they become like a Blake Lively. They just become evil. And it changes something in their brain. They stop caring about other people. They become narcissistic and what's in it for me. And like Madeleine Albright, a woman, when asked about killing, I don't know what war it was, there were millions of people that were killed, she said it was worth it. Yes, because the US killed civilians. And if you look at how Russia fights, what they're doing in Ukraine, they're doing a war of elimination. They have eliminated most of NATO's stockpiles, most of the US weapons, and they're eliminating the Ukrainian military. They're very smart. And people are like, Russia's weak, it's taking them this long. No, because if they had not eliminated NATO's weapons and the US weapons and the Ukrainian military, NATO and the US and Ukraine would just rearm and attack Russia again from Ukraine or from one of these other surrounding countries in Russia. That's what they want to do, weaken Russia. And the US cannot make more weapons because we deindustrialized ourselves. We even need rare earth minerals from China just to make these weapons. And now we're openly admitting we're going to invade Taiwan and China, and we're doing war maneuvers around China, flexing, when China supplies most of what we buy. I mean, it's just utter madness. And eventually this whole thing is going to collapse. Our debt is no joke. The commercial real estate market is suffering immensely. The delinquency rate in commercial-backed mortgage-backed securities, commercial mortgage-backed securities, is 17%. It's higher than it was right before the great financial crash in 2008. They say the US debt is $37 trillion. That's government debt. Now you want to add private sector debt? We're over $110 trillion in debt. And because we have the reserve currency, we're able to have this very slow decline, but it's going to break. And one thing can set it off. And then what if we have hordes of people in the streets that have no food? It could get very ugly. But the dollar is going to crash. And all these people making money in the stock market think they're so smart. It's just a big bubble that's going to burst. Your housing prices have to come down because they're way too high. There's no liquidity in the housing market because the prices are double what they should be. People's wages are down. A lot of people are in poverty. The unemployment rate is higher than they say. And our country is not doing anything. When you go outside the cities, you just see decline. The infrastructure is in decline. The cities are in decline. And while we put tariffs on countries to try to encourage in our own country to start producing, I don't see any efforts to build up our industry or improve our education or provide the infrastructure to start manufacturing things again. I mean, we can't even refine our own rare earth minerals that we have. We have to send it out to China for them to do. It would take us 5 or 10 years to get to the industrial capacity to make the weapons that we have already given to Israel and Ukraine. You know, the rising power is in BRICS, and they want us to join them. They want us to join them. I think they would welcome us with open arms, but we have shot our load poorly. We have shot our load poorly because they can no longer trust us. A week before, so we were in negotiations with Russia over Ukraine, and we were in negotiations with Iran over their nuclear weapons, which, by the way, Trump tore up the joint JCPOA. There was a nuclear weapons agreement that Obama and Europe spent 8 years putting together, and Trump tore it up. And Iran continued to stick by it because they don't believe in nuclear weapons, and they don't have to. They have hypersonic missiles, which are just as effective but don't do all that damage. But the U.S. walked away from it, but still, the U.S. is in negotiations, and they're ongoing, right? So before the 4th or 5th talk on both of these, Russia and Iran, the U.S. sneakily stuck in the middle of while they were in negotiations, like the day before the next meeting, and attacked these countries. Yes, remember when Russia was attacked just a few months ago and Iran was attacked? This was during the talks. The U.S. agrees to certain things. Oh yeah, we do that. If you do this, then we'll lift the sanctions, and the country does this and we don't lift the sanctions. We don't have, our word means nothing. Our word means nothing. That's the problem. Whether it's Biden or Trump, this is both parties. This is the fucking uniparty. This is the empire frothing at the mouth, trying to gain control, and there's no strategy. It's like, let me do a tariff here. Let me send a warship down to Venezuela. Let me try to bomb the Yemenis. Let me try this. Let me try that. Let me say this. Let me say that. There's no consistency. There's no purpose. It's just flailing around as our empire sputters and decline, and the overvalued stock market, which is at 40 times PE, which is triple what it historically should be, the overvalued housing market, which is held up by the government protecting all of the delinquent mortgages on their books, the commercial mortgage-backed securities, the FHA, and all of it. It's all a house of cards, and it's all hidden under the surface, and when the first domino breaks, the whole fucking thing is going to go down. Because we have so much debt and people are broke and no one's investing in this country. And I'm on a roll. The only investment opportunities for hedge funds, what are they doing in China? They're building big bridges and they're building dams and mining and doing things with resources and building canals and railways to do commerce and trade with other countries. You're supposed to create things with your money. The stock market was originally created so companies could raise money to expand their industry, to build more factories, do more research and development. But instead, what do our hedge funds do? I don't see them building dams or railways or new factories or doing research and development. No, they're buying residential properties. They're buying out existing companies and plundering them out of their profits, laying off people and selling it. They're involved in destruction, financialization, and war. They're making drugs that you don't need that harm you, making sure they're protected against liability. They make weapons to kill and destroy and loot people all over the world. And they, Wall Street, financialization, covering things up, papering things up. And it's working because we are the reserve currency, but it's a house of cards, you guys. You all know it deep down inside. And some of us are protected in our little bubbles, but then those of us who are in our little bubbles could be the most shocked when it happens. And don't forget, we're only a few hundred years old. China, 5,000 years. Russia, how many thousands of years old is Iran, Russia, China, India? These people have been through occupation by Great Britain, India. I heard something interesting recently that Alex Craner said, and I like listening to Alex Craner. He's a really good analyst. Britain ruled India. Britain was another of these overreach empires that's just utterly collapsed. I mean, you look at the people in British Parliament, they all look homeless. Like, they look so poor and impoverished with their dirty, crooked teeth and their dirty hair and their crappy clothes. Like, they look really bad to me. I think they're very disgusting looking, okay? They don't look well kept, like they have their shit together at all to me. But during the time that Britain ruled India, there was a famine every 4 years. And since Britain lost, since India has been freed of British occupation, there have been no famines. And in all the years before Britain, there was a famine every 200 years. And that's how Britain does things. That's what Britain is doing in Gaza. According to Alex Craner, it was the British that decided to put the Jewish people in this land, in this Palestinian land, and carved out Israel. And it's the British who like to use famine, like the potato famine in Ireland. It's the British that use famine as a tool of war to subjugate the people. And what the US likes to do is foment revolutions and chaos in countries, because when people are fighting among each other, they weaken, and then they're easier to control. And so just be careful when you see things on social media. They're trying to divide us, like Republicans versus Democrats, when in the end there's no difference. The only difference among Republicans and Democrats has to do with immigration, because the Democrats wanted all this illegal immigration and the Republicans didn't. And then I think it may be abortion. But when it comes to war and economic policy and how well you're doing financially and are standing in the world, they're both the same. They both covered for Epstein. None of them released the JFK files. They're all starting wars. We still have as many US bases. Our finances are going in the toilet. We're not trading with other countries. Like, they're all the same. But they try to separate us through gender wars, culture wars, Republican versus Democrat. You guys are not that much different. If you want to hear a real difference, start talking Libertarian Party, Green Party, Communist Party, Socialist Party. Now we have some real differences. But anyway, so this is just my video on like all the propaganda in the media. Russia would be a great ally to us. We would do very well to start trading with Russia and building alliances. What if our companies could go into Russia and help them develop their oil fields or whatever expertise we have, and we could trade with them, and we could actually be friends? But that would ruin it for Wall Street and for the military-industrial complex. They wouldn't like that, because they wouldn't make money, because they make their money killing people. And one more thing I want to say. Real men in war attack military targets. That means military infrastructure or soldiers. But the US always goes after the civilians. And the US is the one killing civilians in Gaza. They've killed millions of people. That's the other thing. It's like, oh, Putin is so bad. He killed his own people. He's killed a couple politicians. Okay, well, Germany just killed 6 AfD politicians. Okay? And look at, we've killed millions of people. Millions of people in our wars. And how many people have we killed with our sanctions? People don't realize all those immigrants coming from Venezuela, wherever they're coming from, is because we sanctioned them. They have uprisings, they have starvation, they have famine. We cause it in Africa. We've killed millions of people. Okay, that's no. Who has Russia killed? Who has Russia invaded? I'm so tired of the bullshit. Get the fuck out of here. I'm so tired of the bullshit. So if you come at me with this Putin is bad, you just sound ignorant. You just sound super ignorant. You got to wake up. Okay? You guys all have to just wake up. And that is the end of my rant. I think that what we have to do is get our news from people who are not the mainstream media co-opted by the government. I think we have to question, and the Constitution talks about the press, but the Constitution envisioned a press that questions the government and holds the government accountable. The government is supposed to be accountable to the people, and the way that the people hold the government accountable is through a free press that questions and challenges. But if you do see any interviews with the president, they're all just like, oh, we want to be nice to you so we can get more interviews. There is no free press on the mainstream media, but fortunately, fewer and fewer people are watching that, and younger people are getting their news not on that platform. And I became disillusioned with it during COVID, but then when I realized that Russiagate was a lie, I was waiting for them to apologize, because I watched the mainstream media during the whole Russiagate years. I'm like, yeah, let's get Trump. He's like, Russiagate, yeah, they're interfering in our elections, because I believed they were telling us the truth. I thought they were journalists. And when it came out, like a year or so ago, that it was all a hoax, inspired by Hillary Clinton, I was like waiting for the journalists to be like, oh my God, we got it wrong. We're sorry. We take accountability for journalistic integrity, but not a peep. Because they knew it was all bullshit. Just like the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq was all bullshit. And just like the 9/11, the skyscraper came down in a free fall demolition. I've seen demolitions. They look just like that. They pancake down. Airplane doesn't do that. It's too much bullshit, and I hope the Epstein files get released, because there's so much pressure right now to release these Epstein files, thanks to Thomas Massie, that this is going to crack the code of covering up for the corruption. And BRICS is getting powerful enough that they can no longer have to stand up to being bullied by the US war machine, which has no regard for the sovereignty of other countries. And you call Iran a regime? Iran is a country, a sovereign country that has elections. Venezuela has elections. Garland Nixon apparently was down there. They invite people to come down there and supervise the elections. Apparently Garland Nixon was there supervising an election. Maduro is the elected leader of Venezuela. Well, you might not like it because he's not your little puppet. You might not like it. It's not your little puppet. So anyone who's not the US puppet is painted as an evil dictator. But just look at how many wars these evil people start. How many wars has Kim Jong-un started? How many wars has Russia started? Yeah, they defend themselves against the US-led invasions. The US is always starting little skirmishes around Russia, and Russia defends its borders. But they don't invade other countries. How many countries has India invaded? Of course, we don't bad talk India. How many countries has Iran invaded? They've been around for thousands of years. How many countries has Iran invaded in my lifetime? None. None. Russia, none. China, none. But the US Dozens. 80 coups we've done. This is what the US does. Okay, if you don't do what we want, we sanction you. If that doesn't work, we run a coup. If that doesn't work, we decapitate you leaders and we start a war and we kill your civilians. And not just Vietnam, Syria, Libya, Afghanistan, Iraq. I don't even know all the countries. Those are just the ones that come to mind. And all of the money that we spend sending weapons to Ukraine, it wasn't to save Ukraine. Ukraine is fucking annihilated. They lost half their young people. They've fled or been killed. The purpose of Ukraine was to be used as a tool to weaken Russia. The West actually thought they could weaken Russia. When we started the Ukraine war and made a video, I was like, this is dumb. I told one of my Ukrainian friends, like, why is your brother fighting? They're going to lose against Russia. And she was mad. She's like, fuck you. I'm thinking, because I knew Russia is a strong country. And Russia had the manufacturing, the infrastructure and the manufacturing capacity to build up to a war. But they went in with a very small military brigade because they were hoping that the West would just come to an agreement with them. But no, the West and Europe, even now, they're like, we got to build up weapons to fight for Ukraine. We want to weaken Russia. Well, you have no money, you have no industrial capacity, and now Trump's trying to get you to buy weapons from us. We don't have them, and you don't have the money. You need IMF bailout loans. You're about to take away social safety nets from your people. Your export market sucks. You guys are in a big fucking recession in Europe. And you're talking about starting a war with Russia? This is just utter madness. Of course, I'm in my own little bubble here. The trees are so green. The birds are flying around. There's sunshine. It's very peaceful in my world. And I want it to stay that way. But I just get so annoyed at these people who try to badmouth Putin because he's bad. Why? We're the bad ones. Look at what Putin's doing. Look at the alliances he's building. Look at the friendships he's building. Look at the trade deals he's making. And look at how he saved Russia from the oligarchs. Russia was run by madmen, just like we're run now by oligarchs. We're run by oligarchs. The oligarchs are here. The oligarchs are here. They're called lobbyists. The Israeli lobby, the pharmaceutical lobby, the Wall Street lobby, the BlackRocks. They're running our country and they're running Europe and they're running it into the fucking ground. Look around you. What's Russia doing? Putin took Russia from the oligarchs who were exploiting it and he started making them pay taxes. So they left. And then he started industrializing it. And the people in Russia have a pretty good standard of living. And he has an 85% approval rating because he's actually making people's lives better. Just like the leader of Burkina Faso. Oh my God, I have to tell you about this guy. Burkina Faso. Okay, I have to tell you about this leader. Oh my God, he's so amazing. He is in on the BRICS stuff, and Africa has been subjugated by the colonial powers, England, France, and the US, for so long. They have plundered Africa and left it poor, and now he seized power in a coup in 2022. His name is Traoré, Ibrahim Traoré, and they're running a military dictatorship right now, which is actually fine because he's actually helping the people. He ditched the former colonial power of France and formed a strong alliance with Russia. And that's why people like him, because he's like, we are done being subjugated by the Western colonial powers. And he has set up a state-owned mining company, and now foreign firms have to give it a 15% stake. And he also gave tractors to a whole bunch of farmers. Like, he's just doing so many things to help people. And this is from the BBC. A researcher at South Africa's Institute for Security Studies, Enoch Randy Akins, said, he is now arguably Africa's most popular, if not favorite, president. Okay, so the people like him. And that's what we need in leaders. Leaders that actually make the country better. Like China has improved greatly, Russia has improved, and now this country, Burkina Faso, is improving. And that's what Russia is trying to do, and that's what the U.S. is not doing, because the U.S. is a colonial empire in decline, where the elites are just getting more and more richer, making more and more money, and exploiting the other people. And they don't care about us. They'll kill us if they have to. I wouldn't be surprised if they would try. That's how evil these people are. But anyway, I see goodness in the world outside the U.S. I see other leaders trying a different way of working with other countries by respecting other countries as sovereign and trading with them. And we have, our entire history is a war history. The entire U.S. history is built on war. And they tell us that the Civil War was about destroying slavery. That's bullshit. It was about not wanting the southern states to leave. Okay, it was always control. It was always subjugation. Like they sterilized the Native Americans and they sterilized the immigrants, and they're evil. They're evil. Our leaders are evil. And look what we're doing in Gaza. We are killing. We're doing a famine extermination of helpless people in Gaza because we want to occupy their land. That's the U.S. doing that. You say it's Israel. It's the U.S. It's our weapons. You know, all of us are complicit. Fortunately, there are some Italian dock workers who are promoting this flotilla that's on the way to Gaza with humanitarian aid. And they said if Israel tries to stop this flotilla, these Italian dock workers are going to stop every ship that goes to Israel. That's what we need. I think the rescue from this oppression of our evil governing party, is going to come from the people who are rising up and saying we have to live our life from the heart. We don't want all these wars, and I'm very curious to see what's going to happen with the Epstein thing, because the Epstein files are going to show how evil these rich people are and who's protecting them. And the mask is going to start coming off. The mask is going to come off. And all of you people who think the U.S. is good and Russia is bad, you're still in the matrix.